SABC local content 90% quota. Was it good or bad? Introduction. In 2016, the South African Broadcasting Corporation, SABC, implemented one of the most contentious broadcasting policies in democratic South Africa, a 90% local music content quota on its radio stations. The policy was introduced and enforced under the leadership of Hlaudi Motsoeneng, then Chief Operating Officer, COO, of the SABC. What was presented as a bold act of cultural transformation quickly became a flashpoint for legal battles, parliamentary inquiries, and public protest. Drawing on court judgments, official inquiries, parliamentary records, media reporting, and academic commentary, this essay evaluates whether the 90% quota was ultimately good or bad. Background: who implemented the policy and why. Hlaudi Motsoeneng announced the 90% local content policy in May 2016, arguing that South African artists had been marginalized on their own airwaves for decades. He framed the quota as a corrective intervention aligned with the SABC's public mandate to promote local culture, languages, and creative industries. However, Motsoeneng implemented the policy unilaterally, without formal approval from the SABC board or the required public consultation processes. This governance failure would later become central to judicial and parliamentary criticism. The case for the 90% quota, why it was good. 1. Immediate benefits for local artists. Evidence presented in parliamentary hearings and industry submissions showed that local musicians experienced a dramatic increase in airplay and royalty earnings. Veteran artists saw revived careers, while emerging musicians gained national exposure previously unavailable to them. 2. Cultural representation and language diversity. The quota significantly increased the presence of indigenous languages and local narratives on public radio. Stations began reflecting regional identities more authentically, aligning with the SABC's constitutional and legislative mandate to promote South African culture. 3. Symbolic cultural redress. Supporters argued, both in Parliament and in public discourse, that the policy challenged cultural imperialism in broadcasting. In this sense, the quota was viewed as a statement of cultural sovereignty rather than merely a programming rule. The case against the 90% quota, why it was bad. 1. Governance and legality court judgments. South African courts repeatedly found that Hlaudi Motsoeneng acted unlawfully in implementing major SABC policies without due process. In Democratic Alliance for SABC and related cases, courts held that Motsoeneng exceeded his authority. The SABC failed to follow rational decision-making procedures. Key policies, including editorial and content decisions, were implemented without board approval. While the courts did not rule against local content promotion per se, they condemned the manner in which the 90% quota was imposed. 2. Parliamentary inquiry findings. The 2016 parliamentary inquiry into the SABC, conducted by the Portfolio Committee on Communications, was devastating in its findings. Parliament concluded that Motsoeneng exercised excessive and unlawful power. Policy decisions, including the local content quota, lacked consultation and evidence-based planning. The SABC suffered financial harm due to declining audiences and advertiser withdrawal. The inquiry recommended Motsoeneng's removal and structural reforms at the SABC, which were later implemented. 3. Economic and audience impact. Evidence before Parliament and in media reports showed that some SABC radio stations experienced declining listenership after the quota's introduction. Advertisers responded by reducing spend, worsening the SABC's already severe financial crisis. Critics argued that cultural policy cannot succeed if it undermines the sustainability of the public broadcaster itself. 4. Quality and repetition concerns. Broadcasters and listeners complained that the quota resulted in repetitive playlists, not because of a lack of talent, but because the industry had not been prepared for such a drastic shift. The absence of a phased approach or supporting investment in music production weakened the policy's effectiveness. The deeper problem: policy versus personality. Court records, inquiry reports, and parliamentary debates reveal a critical distinction. The problem was not local content, but leadership and process. While many stakeholders supported increasing South African content, often advocating quotas of 40–60%, the 90% figure became inseparable from Motsoeneng's controversial leadership style, disregard for governance, and broader institutional collapse at the SABC. As a result, a legitimate cultural objective was delegitimized by unlawful implementation.
My legacy, because I want to
Yeah.
just close the legacy. The past legacy also, it was 90%.
Yes.
Which turns around the lives of people. And it was not just about the artist.
Yeah.
It was about all people who do business with the SABC.
I think the problem with the 90% situation
okay.
is that obviously you would know that unfortunately the way the world of broadcasting works is that the advertisers buy into the things that they want. And of course, if you then say to them, look, we're going to have 90% local content, and you don't get the advertising community to buy into that model, you are running the risk that they were going to abandon you, move to private service providers. And unfortunately, that is what happened.
No, they did not. That is a pure lie and misleading people of South Africa.
The finances
No.
carry on.
No. It happens. You can't blame me when I'm not there. I'm telling you when I was there.
We can blame you for the decision you made when you were there that are still affecting the SABC now. Do you accept that?
If I was there,
yeah,
SABC will be having 1.8 billion in the bank.
How much do they have now? Because they could very well have 1.8 billion. You don't know.
No. People, if they don't know broadcasting, they don't know. If you don't know, you don't know.
But I think businesses are sort of the same.
No.
I mean, the finances are the same. You don't have to master broadcasting to understand a balance sheet.
Kaya, you don't understand what you are talking about.
Okay.
You see, when you interview me, you should know your story.
Yeah.
And here I'm telling you the story, because when you tell me about the perception, here I'm telling you the story. Here's the real story. When the advertisers, they come to the SABC or any broadcaster, what attracts them is the audience.
Yes.
And I can tell you, the local content attracted more audience. Example, Uzalu, Generation, comparing to international content. I did not wake up in the morning.
So you did your research.
90%.
Yeah.
All the team of the SABC, I put a schedule. I said, let's go each and every schedule within the SABC. And those people that are not performing, let us get rid of them. And when I check the books and the scheduling of the SABC, the international content, they were not performing.
Yeah.
That is the reason we get rid of them. It is not true that we just wait and introduce 90%.
So you did do your research. Okay.
Conclusion: good idea, bad execution. The SABC's 90% local content quota was conceptually defensible but procedurally indefensible. It succeeded in spotlighting South African music, languages, and talent, and it reignited national debate about cultural ownership of public airwaves. However, court judgments, parliamentary inquiries, and financial outcomes confirm that the policy was imposed unlawfully, without consultation, and during a period of severe governance failure. In that context, the quota became less a tool of transformation and more a symbol of institutional breakdown. History suggests a balanced conclusion. Local content promotion is good and necessary. The 90% quota, as implemented, was unsustainable and legally flawed. The lasting lesson is that cultural transformation in public broadcasting requires lawful leadership, evidence-based policy, and institutional credibility, without which even the best ideas can fail.